Now, besides Hunter Biden saying uncle, I want to talk a little more about sex lies and videotapes from Fani Willis and her boyfriend in Atlanta, Georgia. We got Charlie Hurt, Washington Times opinion editor and Fox News contributor. Charlie, just a quickie on Hunter Biden. Looks like they caved in. After all this nonsense and embarrassment, it looks like they caved in. What do you make of that?
Yeah, it's a real curiosity, Larry, because as you pointed out a minute ago, it was just earlier this week that they put on that whole circus on the Hill. So it kind of makes you wonder, why did they, I figured that they were just going for this strategy of making it all look so ridiculous that it would lose credibility, trying to make the House lose credibility, but then to turn right around and then agree to what they were refusing to do in the first place, which is a closed deposition. It seems to me that it looks like that they did cave to it.
Yeah, that's funny. They took a lot of flack, for looking like a spoiled rich kid nitwit idiot in that thing that they did the other day. I think it hurt Joe Biden as much as it hurts Hunter Biden, but whatever. And now,
that's exactly what I was thinking. Is that what we don't know right now is what the White House weighed in on all of this.
Right.
The White House. This was terrible for the White House. It was embarrassing for the White House, and it's very possible that the White House said, "Hey, this is a huge political liability for us, and you need to act like a grown-up." And everybody likes to walk around talking about what a great lawyer Abby Lowell is. Well, this is embarrassing. This isn't the sign of a great lawyer. This is the sign of a very bad lawyer, actually.
I think you're 100% right. It wouldn't surprise me if the political advisors, whoever they are, now, the Biden political advisors are not geniuses. They've proven that. But they may have gotten this right. Step up, shape up, suit up, and do the right thing. You're absolutely right. We do have Byron York, chief political correspondent at the Washington Examiner and a Fox News contributor, to join us. Byron, I'm just going to rush right through Hunter Biden and go immediately to sex lies and videotape in Atlanta, Georgia. This story... This is becoming my favorite political story of the young new year, because now it turns out that the boyfriend, Fani Willis's boyfriend, who was gotten nearly $700,000 to go out with Fani Willis, that was what Mark Simone said, turns out he wouldn't give his ex-wife any money, so Fani Willis is being deposed. We may learn more from the divorce deposition or the divorce hearing than we will from the RICO racketeering hearing, which is probably going to blow up in smoke anyway. So, Byron, you're from the South someplace, aren't you? What do you make of this?
Well, this is just absolutely incredible, this filing that we saw laying out this whole story. And it was very clear that the divorce was a large part of the sourcing of this story, shall we say, for journalists with public figures. Divorces can sometimes be really, really interesting. The serious matter here is you have the prosecutor who is prosecuting former President Trump and 18 other co-defendants, allegedly hiring her boyfriend as her lead prosecutor, paying him a huge amount of money, and then using some of that money to go on really nice vacations to Napa Valley and the Caribbean and other places. This is a serious ethical issue. And Fani Willis, by the way, this came out on Monday night? She has not said a word about it. She says, well, she's going to respond in the proper forum in a briefing or something, but we have not heard a thing from her yet.
Yeah, the next thing we're going to hear from her is at the divorce court proceeding. Ha, ha, ha. And Charlie, this thing is going to have a bad effect. Look, I'm not a lawyer, obviously, but I think this is going to do great damage to this RICO racketeering lawsuit. I think it's going to go up in smoke, okay? I may be wrong, but that's what I think is going to happen. And I think there's a domino effect, Charlie. You got these bozos in New York, Letitia James. She wants to literally take away Donald Trump's family's businesses. I don't know how much money, $350 million. I forget what the number is. You've got a partisan, Democratic, corrupt judge. And here's the other thing, Charlie. Going back to sex lies and videotape, Fani Willis, her boyfriend spent 8 hours or some such thing in the White House before this thing was filed, this RICO thing. Now, that is a lot of proof that the White House, Joe Biden, is calling the shots for the legal attack on Trump. And Letitia James in New York, the Attorney General, she spent time in the White House getting coached on all that. Who do you think's calling the shots in this war against Donald Trump? I would say that's insurrectionary myself, to coin a phrase.
Right. It is definitely insurrectionary, if that is a word. But the boyfriend in the White House, it's sort of a side deal, but it is one of the most amazing aspects of all of this. And it underscores what should have been obvious to everybody from the beginning, which is all of this is political. And when you have this willing suspension of disbelief on behalf of Democrats and even some Republicans to just buy any crazy story that somebody comes up with in order to smear Donald Trump, and then put together these crazy charges, both in New York, I would say also in D.C., but also in Atlanta. And then you find out that Fani Willis is sitting here paying her boyfriend in order who spent time in the White House previously, in order to try to destroy Donald Trump so that Democrats don't have to face him in an election. It starts to make you believe in conspiracy theories.
Yeah, it does.
These people have done more to support the idea that we should believe all conspiracy theories until they're disproven.
Well, by the way, she may have paid him to go out with her. Don't rule that out. That may come out in one of the depositions.
That's fantastic.
I'm not sure. She may have. I can't take credit for that. It was Mark Simone's thing. And you know, Byron, as a Southerner, I thought the South was fount of law and order, but we'll have to go that another segment. Let me play some tape from the Trump town hall with Bret Baier and Martha McCallum and Fox News. I want to play this tape, which I think was a turning point in the campaign. Hang on, fellas. Here it comes.
I'm not going to have time for retribution. We're going to make this country so successful again. I'm not going to have time for retribution. And remember this, our ultimate retribution is success.
You know, Byron, I think that's one of the turning points. While Haley and DeSantis were frying each other's brains out in that awful debate that they had that nobody watched, but a few people watched it. You know, people in New Hampshire and people in Iowa are probably watching both events to some extent. Trump looked presidential, looked commander-in-chief, made a lot of sense. Saying that, for example, he's not going after anybody, he's just going to succeed. Byron York, I just have a feeling that that is going to prove to be a turning point and help Trump win not only Iowa, but New Hampshire. What do you think?
Well, I think the former president actually intended it as a turning point. You're right. The debate here in Des Moines was really weird in the sense that President Trump leads both DeSantis and Haley by 35 points. The time before the caucuses can be measured in hours now. Time is good. And they spent all of their time beating up on each other and not President Trump and also not President Biden. The one thing that you can really get applause from with the Republican audience is to criticize President Biden. And they didn't do much of that either. Meanwhile, President Trump on Fox with Bret and Martha clearly made a pivot toward the general election. Running a campaign of retribution is not something that's going to play with a general election audience. At best, it would be the number of people who feel aggrieved by the 2020 election. Also, and this was controversial among Republicans, his comments on abortion were clearly designed for a general election audience.
Yeah, very nuanced, very sophisticated. You know, the whole event, Bret was good, Martha was good, Trump was just so good presidential. I think it's an absolute turning point. I could be wrong. There's going to be global freezing in Iowa, but the folks there are going to come out and vote anyway. Charlie Hurt, thank you very much. Byron York, thank you ever so much.